Welcome to another Neuro Pride interview. Today I'm speaking to, well, Jess, but JJ Hale is their author name. And they are an author of sapphic romance novels. And the reason they're talking to Neuro Pride is that, as it says on their website, they like to write books about kick-ass queer neurodivergent women. So obviously this is an area that we are very, very interested in. And JJ is going to be, sorry, Jess, which do you prefer me to call you?
Jess is good, yeah.
Yes, okay. Jess is going to be a member of our panel that we are doing on the 8th of August, which is also Neuro Pride Day, at 8 p.m. and where we will be talking to a number of authors around neurodivergent representation in books and media. So yeah, you are a award-winning author of 2 books called Truly Wanted and Truly Enough. You won the Goldie Awards. I nearly said the Golden Globes. The Goldie Awards for contemporary romance and a debut novel. So huge congratulations on that. I know it's a really big deal. So yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to say about yourself? Or
I think you've covered most of it. Yeah, like I got published in last year. So my first book came out last year in October, and the second one just came out in June. And the publisher is US based, so it's not often I get to do a lot of, or much Irish based stuff. So I've been looking, I really want to try and link in with more people around here, especially and around the neurodiversity representation in the books and stuff. So it was great when you reached out. Really happy to be here talking.
Oh, fantastic. So we've mentioned the neurodiversity and your characters there. It's not, you are neurodivergent yourself.
Yeah.
And you're late identified.
Yes.
I'm right in saying that. So has that influenced the way that you're presenting the characters in your book?
Absolutely. So I was diagnosed in 2019, and that's actually the same year that I finished my first novel, which isn't a coincidence. After I got diagnosed, it was just, I suppose, having more information about myself and how my brain works and ways to try and stop forcing it to work in certain ways made such a huge difference to my writing. And I'd always started so many stories and just never been able to finish any. And the first that I finished was Truly Wanted, which is my debut novel. And so I wrote the book, and I was really focused on sapphic representation, because I remember being a teenager, and when I found out that sapphic romance and stuff, because I hated romance, I was like, oh, I like fantasy books and stuff, but I hate romance. And then I found out sapphic romance was a thing, and I was like, oh, I don't hate romance, I just hate straight romance.
I just hate that romance. Yeah
exactly. Yeah. And I remember reading so many books and just thinking I wish I'd known about this sooner. I wish I'd seen these sooner and known more about myself and stuff. And so I wrote the book with that in mind. And then I finished it, and then I was rereading it, and I was like, oh, I think Sam has ADHD. My character.
It's amazing. Yeah, you're like, oh, actually, I can see what I've done. Yeah.
Written it, but I was like, I think it would be, then I started thinking the same about ADHD. If I had read one book or one something or seen one thing that described it as it actually is, then maybe I'd have known far sooner that I had it. Something that wasn't the stereotypical stuff people think of. And there was this kind of oh my God, why didn't someone tell me? Why didn't I? And so I said it to a friend. I was like, I think I should make Sam have ADHD. And my friend was like, I thought you did, because she had read the book, and she was like, oh, I thought that was the intention. I was like, clearly I projected enough that
maybe it was a form of therapy.
Exactly. But I went back, because I was like, it's actually very important to me, if she does have ADHD, to write it, to explain,
be explicit,
put it in there, and have it explicit. So I did. I went back and edited it and added it in, and the places where I'd done it, I put more. And so it hugely influenced the character. Obviously, I actually found it harder to write Brooke, the character who doesn't have ADHD, because I was like, how do neurotypicals think?
Who knows?
What are your interests? I don't know.
I don't know. The weather, handbags. And that's the thing. I think we will be doing as part of the Neuro Pride Festival, we are going to be doing a an event around neurodivergent representation, and so much of the representation is this implied, hinted at, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, and people trying to like call, you know, headcanon, being like, oh, this character is, you know, like Wednesday and all this kind of stuff, and you're like, no, we need it to be explicit. We need you to say this person is autistic, ADHD, they have Tourette's, dyscalculia, whatever the neurodivergence is, they have cluster B, whatever. It needs to be explicit for that exact reason. That it's all very well when you know what you're looking at to be like, oh, this person's coded this way. But if you don't know what you're looking at and it's not explicitly said, then you're not
like,
recognized.
I'm very like this person, but you don't know why or what's behind it or what the reasons are.
And you know what's very interesting to me, kind of going off on a tangent here, but what's very interesting to me is how many queer people are late identified. But you know, there's huge overlaps between the two communities. But how many are late identified who will say, I knew there was something that was different about me. And when I realized I was queer, or I understood that I was queer, I was like, oh, that was what the difference was. And then it kind of delayed the other side, because you're like, oh no, actually, that's not quite it. There's something else there. Do you know that kind of way? I don't know. It has,
and
that
I think as well, because, you know, neurodivergent people tend to go in packs and you tend to find each other, that can almost, you know, be a thing where you're like, oh no, I'm just like this person. So you know, they think like me and they're like this. So it's okay. You know, it is, you know, just typical. And then you're like, oh, wait, we're all neurodivergent.
Isn't it amazing how you kind of do find we call it our neuro clan. You know, cultural appropriation around the word tribe and everything. But we're trying to, Neuro Pride, like this is what we refer to as a neuro clan. And I was going to ask you a question and it's completely gone out of my head, to be a complete stereotype. To be a complete stereotype. But in terms of, did you get any pushback from your publisher around, I want to make this character explicitly ADHD?
So the opposite, actually, which I was really happy with. So I suppose the publisher that I'd sent it to was a publisher that I really like. I love their authors in general. I love the books, and I really wanted to go to this publisher, but I never in a million years expected that it would happen, you know. And so I had sent it in, and then they said they were interested, and they had said in the first email, like, we have some things that, you know, changes that we're thinking of, so we'll send them to you first before we get into contracts to make sure it fits what you're happy with. And in my head, I immediately was like, okay, I probably need to change the character and stuff like that. You know, because that's what you're used to, you know, change it and make it more
palatable to everybody else.
Exactly. And in fact, when I started, you know, when I met my editor, and who has been fantastic, it was the opposite. She was like, we need more of it. You need to explain more. And like, I was worried that, like, I was trying to, you know, find that balance between not info dumping in a book or not trying to like push, you know, it sounded like a textbook inside a romance, and
or feeling a bit tokenistic as well. There's
exactly. And I didn't want to make it like, you know, I didn't want Sam to be, you know, I didn't want to make her something she wasn't, just so she could be stereotypically this, and found that hard. But actually, my editor was like, people are really interested, will be really interested, and you know, people need to know, it's important. And so if it means taking this time to explain it a bit more, adding in more, that's what they want. And like, especially around RSD. So I had kind of touched on RSD within the book. I'm
just going to explain that just in case, because some people mightn't be aware. RSD is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Yep, I nearly said dysmorphia, and I was like, that's not right. I'm terrible at anagrams. I can never. So it is a thing where people react quite strongly to real or perceived criticism, and it's very predominant in the ADHD community in particular. It's across neurodivergence, but the ADHD community, it's very common for us to suffer this. It's a trauma response, to be honest with you, from being rejected all our lives. It's not out of nowhere. Like, if you look at the clinical definition, it'd be like, oh, an over the top reaction, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, this is a proportionate reaction to the fact that we are, you know, like, you know, you've heard about the statistics around how much criticism and how many,
which is staggering, you know,
by 12 years of age that ADHDers do in comparison to their neurotypical peers. So it's not something that we, as you said, it's not something that it's just, this came out of nowhere. What are the chances that all these ADHD people have have the same thing going on? But it is very real. It's very, very real. And it can be quite disabling, can't it?
Yeah. And I remember the first time I ever read anything about RSD, going like, there's a name for that. It's a real thing. I'm not just overly sensitive or overreacting or, trying to shove it all inside because this. And I'm like, it's a it's a physical pain. It's a physical feeling. It's a real thing. And talking to a lot of ADHDers as adults, it can be one of the biggest issues that they have, with relationships, with friendships, with work, with just managing daily life, especially when it becomes this shame thing,
very difficult. It is, as you said, because we are programmed to be quite egotistical. Let's be honest, as a species, we're very egotistical. As a children, especially, it's developmentally appropriate for children to be that egotistical. I'm the center of the world. So when they're getting that rejection and when they're dealing with rejection sensitivity, they're going to internalize it and be like, yet again, this is my fault. It's my fault that I'm reacting like this. It's my fault.
Exactly.
And as you said, it's a physical reaction. It links into anxiety. It's, it has all the symptoms of an anxiety trauma response.
Exactly. And there was a part of the book where I'd written that in, and it was, a reaction Sam was having to something that outside would perceived an overreaction, as you would say, to a situation that happened, but it was a perceived rejection. And it was this, she really kind of folded in herself. And I kind of explained that without mentioning RSD specifically. And my editor had come back being like, I know there's a reason you did this, so would you explain more what this reaction is about? And so I explained it. And when I explained it, my editor was like, so her son actually has ADHD, and she had never heard of it. And she was like, this explains so much. And she was just like, even just that information there. And then she was like, put it in, name it, call it out, and let's drop hints of it throughout.
Fantastic. So even though it's a romance novel, it's also a tool for advocacy. Do you know what I mean? Like this is why explicit representation is so important, because it can be used as not an education blog.
No,
as you said, you don't want it to be a textbook, but people just finding out these things through this kind of medium, you'll reach people who probably wouldn't read a textbook. Yeah,
exactly. And that was kind of the biggest thing for me. And like, so they were like super, helpful with everything, really supportive with everything, and really happy to include as much as I wanted, with that, which I was really grateful for. And in fact, then with my second book, I was like, I don't know how you'll feel about this. I said to my editor, I was like, I had an idea, because when I was reading through my first book again, so I had written that Sam had been diagnosed with ADHD since she was a child. So she was actually in foster care, and that was part of the trauma with, again, neurodivergent kids seemingly too difficult and too much work, and people didn't want to invest time. And there was a lot of all that trauma for Sam as well. And then she had later on met, spoiler alert, but met a sister that she didn't know about. And then when I was reading through, I was like, her sister, Lexi, I was like, she is very like Sam, and she's an artist and stuff. And I read it and I was like, oh, I kind of made her have ADHD too, didn't I? A little, like, thinking it. So I said to my editor, I was like, with the second book, I would love to explore someone who doesn't know that she has ADHD and is figuring out later in life, like I did, and the kind of things that would show it, that would make someone think it, that wouldn't be the stereotypical ways again, or the ways that it masked for her.
Yeah, a little house white boy, you mean? That's hyperactive and annoying everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I got really excited about that, about showing that side of it, and the, someone who didn't struggle very much in the typical ways until adulthood kicked in and real life kicked in, and all this kind of other stuff kicked in. Someone who did have supportive parents who kind of allowed her to be who she was without too much pressure, but still that it's still something that will affect someone. It's still, causes issues if you don't know what your brain is like. It's just important to have this information about yourself. And so that's kind of where I wanted to delve into. And again, they were really supportive of it, like really. And that's when I was at the point where I was like, you know what, I don't want to write books without neurodivergent characters. I just don't. It doesn't interest me. I just I'm like, I have this ability to do it, and I have this platform that I've been given to do it, and it's just, yeah, it's amazing to be able to. And I'm just like, you know what, that's what I'm going to do.
Fantastic. Like, no, it is actually fantastic. And even when I was doing small bit of research around this for this interview and everything, as you said, as a genre, it's becoming so much more. And like, the thing is, we're all like, I know it sounds like buzzwords and everything, but this idea of intersectionality, and it's so important, because we're allowing people who don't share identities to silo people off, and nobody lives like that. We're not just, well, I'm autistic, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm queer, or I'm blah blah. No, all of these things play in, and people are, it's almost like people are multifaceted.
I know, it's weird.
It's weird, but it is like, but even the fact that you were within 2 books are sharing 2 different experiences of the same thing, do you know what I mean? And have the, like, myself and my sibling are both on paper would have the same diagnoses or identification markers, or whatever you want to call them, and yet, we do have similarities. We do have similar things that we'd like, if we were talking about an experience, we'll know what the other person talking about. But yet also not.
And that's exactly it. And
do you know what I mean?
what I wanted to show in that, like,
Mm.
when Lexi got to know Sam and stuff, she didn't see herself there. That's not what hit it for her. But then it was that, because again, she didn't, and even though she was like, she had found out about ADHD for Sam, she had, she still didn't see herself there quite yet. Until, Sam was like talking to her about it, and I put in some really like important conversations, and Sam goes on some rants that I've had and multiple times about accessibility and all that kind of stuff, and definitely therapeutic to get some of that out in writing. But I wanted Lexi to kind of figure out that, like, she's an artist, so she's always been creative, so she's always been able to do it, and where her issues came up mostly was when she had to make money from it, and when it had to be a career, and when she suddenly had to do things she wasn't passionate about, like she had to do
the filling forms and
like commissions of art that people had asked her for, and they weren't just what was coming out of her brain, and suddenly she couldn't, and it was just a block, and not only could she not do that, she then couldn't do any art. It just
that's touching on things like demand avoidance and
exactly
that's
where I was going with that. And it's just like, she had great parents, she had great support and all that, but it still got to a point where she was and actually I put in a part to her parents, and her mom, who's her stepmom, and she's kind of like, oh, we just let you be you, and now she kind of felt bad. She was like, maybe we should have done more about it and stuff like that. But it's a point, I just brought it back to the fact that, like, it's so they did the best they could with what they knew, and now they know more, and now they can do more, and I think, like, they're 2 completely different stories, they're 2 completely different people, but with similar joined experiences that were able to help each other.
And do you think there's more, like, are they 2 books and you're like, okay, now I'm going to move on to do something different, or are you going to continue the...
Well, I have the 3rd book written,
nice.
It's gone to the publisher, it's waiting on editing, and it should be out March next year. And in that, so far the main character, I've gone back a few times because I'm not sure exactly where it's going, but right now she has a generalized anxiety disorder. And that's kind of where I was going with that, about I did read back, and I was like, I think she's autistic.
I love the fact that you're writing this, and it's only afterwards you're like, oh, hang on.
Yeah, because I just write, I just write it how it comes to me, and the characters kind of build.
I find that really interesting when I'm reading a book, and like that, it isn't explicit or anything, and I'll be reading it, and I'll be like, this person knows what it's like, and I don't know if they know why they know that. Like, and like, I remember there's a book called Gilded Wolves. I'm not going to name the author because I don't know, the chances of them seeing this very, very slim, but a lot of their characters I'm like, yeah, they're different things. So I actually went to check, like, you know, are they neurodivergent?
Yeah.
They've never mentioned it, they've never said anything about it. They do talk about neurodivergency, they don't mention it around themselves, but I was like, no, this really feels like lived, like this feels like somebody who knows what's,
Yeah.
so I was like, do you give somebody a heads up and by the way,
I do wonder that sometimes in general conversations.
But the thing is that I just find it really interesting that you can tell the difference.
Mhm.
You can tell the difference between somebody who is writing a character who is, and somebody who knows what it feels like or what it is like, because it's, as you said, there's certain things within our community that are shared experiences. Like we can talk about things, and especially like when we've had this come up a lot of times in Neuro Pride, we can talk about things and you can see that moment in people, and you can, you know, oh my goodness, like we often talk about our non-official diagnostic criteria and things like, do you know what I mean? Like, are you a dopamine dressing rainbow autistic or a goth autistic? Like, I don't know, like, you know, do you give people pebbles as presents? Do you know, all these kind of weird little things. Yeah, they're like, this is the thing. Like, if you mention pebbles, if I mention pebbles to you, do you immediately go, oh, have you seen them when they're wet? Oh, I have a little collection here. Do you know, there's all these things that we do.
I just went to the wedding in the Netherlands and I brought back the presents for the kids, and some were little pebbles, literally little pebbles. They were so excited.
Why isn't this in the DSM? No, but yeah, so I think that we'll save the rest of it for the panel, because I think it's going to be really interesting to hear your, like, the authors that we have agreed to talk to us. You're all different, completely different genres of writing. And I think it'll be really interesting, because I think even though they're completely different genres, there'll be commonalities around the representation and why you did it and what it means to you and everything. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm actually really, really looking forward to this. I'm a complete bookworm, and I'm absolutely really, really looking forward to the chance to hear people talk.
It'll be my first panel, so I'm very excited.
Will it? Oh, that's excellent. Oh, that'd be lovely. And like, the thing is that it's, I don't know if you're like me, but any excuse to talk about books, I'm like, yep, I'm there. I'm 100% there. So yeah, please tune into the panel. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. Please read the books. Both myself and Keir have started them, and they're fantastic, but I haven't finished it. I'm not going to lie to you. I have a to be read 40 books at the moment on my no, I'm terrible. I have a problem. I've actually barred myself from going to the library.
They're different things though. Reading books and buying books are different activities.
They're completely different activities. It's not that I don't have enough storage. I don't have too many books. I just have not enough storage. That's exactly it. So Jess, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and I will see you on the 8th of August.
See you then.
Excellent. Thank you very much.